All right, let's turn to 1 Kings in chapter 10. So I've been watching the cricket from home, and sometimes in those in cricket matches they have what's called Ladies' Day. Quite often it's for raising money, you know, things like that for breast cancer and what have you. In Sydney, one of the grandstands is called the Ladies' Stand. So I thought today we might look at ladies, women in the Bible, and some of the things that they got up to and can tell us and can teach us. Anyway, 1 Kings chapter 10 verse 1 says, when the Queen of Sheba heard of the fame of Solomon concerning the name of the Lord, she came to prove him with hard questions. And she came to Jerusalem with a very great train, with camels that bear spices and very much gold and precious stones. And when she was come to Solomon, she communed with him of all that was in her heart. And Solomon told her all her questions. There was not anything hid from the king which he told her not. And when the Queen of Sheba had seen all Solomon's wisdom, and the house that he had built, and the meat of his table, and the sitting of his servants, and the attendance of his ministers and their apparel, and his cupbearers, and his ascent by which he went up into the house of the Lord, there was no more spirit in her. And she said to the king, it was a true report that I heard in mine own land of thy acts and of thy wisdom. Howbeit I believed not the words until I came, and my eyes had seen it. And behold, the half was not told me. Your wisdom and prosperity exceeds the fame which I have heard. Happy are thy men, happy are these thy servants, which stand continually before thee, and that hear thy blessing, that hear thy wisdom. Blessed be the Lord thy God, which delighted in thee, to set thee on the throne of Israel, because the Lord loved Israel forever. Therefore made he thee king to do judgment and justice. She gave the king 120 talents of gold, and of spices very great store, and precious stones. And there came no more such abundance of spices as these, which the Queen of Sheba gave to King Solomon. And the navy also of Hiram, that brought gold from Ophir, brought in from Ophir great plenty of almug trees and precious stones. And the king made of the almug trees pillars for the house of the Lord, and for the king's house harps also, and psalteries for singers. There came no such almug trees, nor was seen to this day. And King Solomon gave unto the Queen of Sheba all her desire, whatsoever she asked, beside that which Solomon gave her of his royal bounty. And so she turned and went to her own country, she and her servants. Now the weight of gold that came to Solomon in 1 year was 666 talents of gold. 666 talents of gold. There's a story just in that verse all by itself. So in the Old Testament, you know, it's there to teach us lots of things. It's a schoolmaster to us, and it's just as relevant as the new. We're living in a different dispensation, of course, but the things that they did, the attitudes that they had, the mistakes perhaps that they made, the faith that they showed, are all there for our encouragement and to learn from, you know. And, you know, she sees this testimony of God's people, and you read about the effect that it has on her. You know, she'd heard of his fame. She'd heard that good things were happening in Israel there. And so here's David's son. He starts off very well, and you know, we know all those things that sort of happen there. And you know, it talks about his renown, this name, the renown, not only of Solomon, but I guess more importantly of the Lord there. She came to prove him with difficult questions, with puzzles. The hard questions there could also have been translated as a conundrum. So something that's doesn't really have an easy, obvious answer, I guess. But the thing that she did was that she'd heard all this stuff about how good it was, but she came to prove it for herself. She came to see. She came to actually experience what was going on in that kingdom at that particular time. She'd heard that, you know, great things were happening, and she's like, man, they didn't even tell me the half of it. It's so much bigger, so much better than I'd even heard about. And perhaps when we were being witnessed to, maybe we'd heard some good things that had happened to other, you know, other folks, testimonies that were being told to us, and maybe we asked some hard questions and thought that it was a puzzle, thought that it was a conundrum, and thought, wow, how am I gonna understand this? And in her case, it kind of you know, it says that in verse 5 there was no more spirit in her. It took her breath away. It was so impressive what she'd seen. The testimony was so impressive. And whenever you see you know, the work of God in the lives of people, it's a great thing, and it's an impressive thing when you see that. And she notices it. She says, your men and your servants and the people that come into your court, I can see how happy they are. Happy are thy men, happy are these thy servants. The Lord is delighted in you, obviously, because of all of these things that are sort of happening there, you know. Of course, it's all the Lord. It's all him. It's not like Solomon's done some great work. What he did is that he was following the Lord at this point. And so it's all the Lord's blessing, you know. And then you think about, so this is talking about a court. Well, you think about the New Testament age, the church, and what is it? It's a gathering together of people, yes, but it's the work of the living God. And it's something that is very precious to us, or it should be precious to us, is this being involved in the work of the living God and being immersed in that blessing. And so she saw God's power, she saw his provision, she saw his blessing. We want people to see those things in us, that same sort of thing, both in the fellowship, our brothers and sisters, and of course people outside as well, to see those things in us as she saw them in Israel, a strange land to her, and yet she recognized it. And quite often, if we're talking to people or they sort of come into our midst or whatever, this might seem like a strange land to them. Things are not familiar. People generally in the world are not happy. There might be fleeting bits of happiness, you know. Georgia might win some football game, or, you know, Nord might win the premiership again. And these are all good things. But she came and saw joy. And that's what we want for people, don't we? That's what we want. God is an exceeder of expectations. And, you know, the New Testament talks about, you know, he blesses us abundantly above all that we ask or think. And it's very true. God is an exceeder of expectations. And that's what happened to the Queen of Sheba here. She knew it was good. She'd heard reports and had probably sent people there and say, go and have a look and come back and tell me what it's like. And they went, had a look, it came back and told her it was pretty good. But until she immersed herself in it, she didn't really know. And when she did know, it took her breath away, didn't it? Some people will see the testimony. Some people will be blind to it for whatever reason. It's the way of it. But one thing we know is that we have something to say that the world needs. We have somebody to direct them to, that they need to be directed to. In Psalm chapter 40, it says, and he has put a new song in my mouth, even praise unto our God. Many shall see it and fear, and shall trust in the Lord. And so never underestimate the effect of God's testimony in your life, the effect on others of your testimony, as you're just going about doing your stuff, you know. And even if you are struggling with something and you know, praying about it, whatever, then there can be inspiration in those things as well, and the things that people are praying for. I'll just quote this. In John it says, then Jesus turned and saw them following and said to them, what seek ye? And they said to him, Rabbi, which is to say, being interpreted, Master, where dwellest thou? And he said unto them, come and see. Philip finds Nathanael and says to him, we have found him of whom Moses in the law and the prophets did write, Jesus of Nazareth, the son of Joseph. And Nathanael said to him, can there any good thing come out of Nazareth? And Philip said to him, come and see. And that's what she did. She heard there was good things, but had to go and see it for herself. And that's what we want people to do, isn't it? We want to encourage people. You know, they had their arguments and, oh, hang on, he's in Nazareth, and he's come from Nazareth, which he hadn't really. He'd really been born in Bethlehem, as we know. But he can any good thing come out of Nazareth? So they're trying to talk their way out of it, sort of thing. And all Philip said was, come and see. You know, on our sign out there, it says truth with proof. And we talk about a gospel that's demonstratable. When she came to Solomon, he just didn't lock her in a room and said, well, here's all the good stuff we've got. No, he showed it. There was nothing, it says there, he didn't hold anything back. There was not anything hid from the king which he told her not. He told her everything, showed her everything, gave her the demo, if you like. And that's what we want to do. We want to give people the demo, the demonstration. Paul talked about the demonstration of the Spirit and of power. That's what he was interested in. You know, don't worry too much about Paul and what he's up to. I want to tell you about this. And so we want to introduce people to the truth. So quite often we'll even say to people, don't believe anything that we're saying particularly. Believe the Bible, believe God, but then test it. Check it out for yourself. You know, she could have easily said, oh, I heard it's pretty good over in Israel. Oh, it must be good then, and not done anything about it. But she went and saw, wanted to see it for herself. And that's what we want people to do, don't we? Go and check it out for yourself. All right, we're going to move on. Just a few little different stories in all this. Matthew now, 15. It's even possible that I've got too many scriptures down here. It has happened before. It might happen again. Matthew 15 and verse 21. Then Jesus went thence and departed into the coasts of Tyre and Sidon. And behold, a woman of Canaan came out of the same coasts and cried unto him, saying, have mercy on me, O Lord, thou son of David. My daughter is grievously vexed with a devil. But he answered her not a word, and his disciples came and besought him, saying, send her away, for she cries after us. This woman is a pain. Stop bothering him. Can't you see that he's not interested in you, sort of thing? You know, he answered her not a word, and he's just going about doing what, and she's yapping away over here or something. Send her away, for she cries after us. Verse 24. But he answered and said, I am not sent but unto the lost sheep of the house of Israel. So the the Lord's opening remark here is to insult this person and go, it's almost like he's saying, well, you're not worthy that I come unto you. He's not really saying that. He's just testing this person. She came and said, well, if that's how you're going to be, I'm off. Could have said that. How many people say that? If that's how you're going to be, well, I'm off. I've got things I want to do and I'm off. But she didn't say that. She came and worshipped him, saying, Lord, help me. She comes to Jesus again and says, Lord, I need your help. Not even his apparent disinterest, even offending this person would not sway her. Jesus, of course, knew exactly what she was about, and he wanted to use this to teach and to reveal and to show not only the people there, but us, 2,000 nearly years later. I guess if anyone had a reason to be offended by the words of Jesus, this person, you could almost say, had some kind of claim. Yet she was the more persistent. She had a need, and she knew that nothing was going to stop her from getting in touch with the Lord. So she's asked for help here. Verse 26, but he answered and said, it is not meet, it is not suitable, it is not right to take the children's bread and to cast it to dogs. Well, that's it then. That's the end of it. I'm off. I'm not going to talk to this bloke anymore. And yet still she's persistent. And she says in verse 27, truth, Lord, yet the dogs eat of the crumbs which fall from their master's table. Wow. Where did she get that wisdom from? Where did that come from? Truth, Lord, yet the dogs eat of the crumbs which fall from their master's table. And Jesus answered and said to her, O woman, great is thy faith. Be it unto thee even as thou wilt. And her daughter was made whole from that very hour when Jesus departs and goes on his way, A root of bitterness, which this woman did not have. It's a really bad thing to have in life in general, particularly in the Lord, but in life in general, of course. It's probably one of the major ways that people leave the Lord, really, is to have that root of bitterness. But this person, she was not going to be deterred, even with having insults just flung at her, one after the other. She wasn't going to be put off. You think about, we're not going to read about this lady, but you think about the woman with the issue of blood, and she'd had it for 12 years, and she'd gone to this doctor and that doctor, and nobody was doing any good. And she just thought, if I could just touch the hem of his garment, then it'll all be good. And she presses through this crowd, and there's all these people thronging around Jesus, as there probably often was. And she presses on. And if she's got this issue of blood, she's probably hasn't got a lot of strength anyway. And yet she's pushing and pushing and pushing herself through. And Jesus sort of marveled at this person. And of course, she was healed. These two women, they hung on for dear life, that nothing would dissuade them from doing what they needed to do. And that was, I've got to get to Jesus. And in the first woman's case, even the insults wouldn't force her away. In the other woman's case, even the throng and the weakness of her own body wouldn't deter her. She was just going to keep at it, no matter what was going to happen to them. Another good lesson for us. Let's go to Mark chapter 12. Mark chapter 12, 12, and verse 41. Mark 12:41 says, and Jesus sat over against the treasury and beheld how the people cast money into the treasury, and many that were rich cast in much. That seems fair enough. If they're rich, then cast in much then. But there came a certain poor widow, and she threw in 2 mites, which make a farthing. Now, before we had dollars and cents, we had farthings, and a farthing was a quarter of a penny. And so she's got in these 2 mites, which make this a quarter of a penny. So I'm imagining that it's not going to make a big difference to the treasury. Probably not. They may not notice these 2 little mites that go in there. But somebody noticed, somebody that you want to notice. Verse 43, and he called unto him, this is Jesus, he called unto him his disciples and said, check this out. I want you to learn something from this. This is important. You might look at it and think she's put in a quarter of a penny, but I'm telling you it's important. Truly I say to you, this poor widow has cast more in than all they which have cast into the treasury. And if he had to stop there, they might have thought, well, hang on, how's that possible? They've put in, a couple of $1,000 and she's put in a quarter of a penny. How can she have put in more than them? For all they did cast in of their abundance, but she of her want did cast in all that she had, even all of her living. The thing about this woman was it appears as though she was not aware that Jesus was watching her. It's not as if she sort of waited and thought, oh, there he is, I'll just wait for him to check me out and then I'll do it. It wasn't like that. She wasn't there to be seen of men. She was there to give to God. And hallelujah, how much did she give? Everything. She gave everything. Anybody else we can think of that gave everything? Jesus Christ gave everything, as this woman gave everything. And so here she is being commended by the Lord. Pretty good position to be in. Not named. We don't know her name, but we know that she was commended. Jesus knows who she was. She was quietly about his business, not for recognition, not for outward show, not for any of that. We do those things because we loved him, but we've always got to remember that he first loved us. Think of the parable of the talents, the guy with 10 got another 10, the guy with 5 got another 5, the guy with 1 only got 1. The first 2 gave 100%. The last guy, he gave nothing. He didn't do anything. And so God expects, of course, nothing less than 100%. If you look at verse 38, talking about the leaders, and he said unto them in his doctrine, beware of the scribes which love to go in long clothing and love salutations in the marketplaces and the chief seats in the synagogues and the uppermost rooms at feasts, which devour widows' houses and for a pretense make long prayers. These shall receive greater damnation. Sorry, Julie, that wasn't on the original list, but I just noticed it there. So here's all these people that are doing it all for the wrong reasons. We want the chief seats in the synagogues. All right, we want to be front and center. Where's the best seat for me to sit that everyone's going to know I'm there? That's what they were about. And here's this woman just came in and chucked in quarter of a penny. Nothing in the natural. But as far as Jesus was concerned, everything, as far as the things of God were concerned there. We'll go back to the Old Testament now. 1 Kings again, 17. 1 Kings 17. Verse 8, 1 Kings 17, verse 8. And the word of the Lord came to him, saying, Arise, get thee to Zarephath, which belonged to Zidon, and dwell there. Behold, I have commanded a widow woman there to sustain thee. First thing that you notice about that is, of all the people he could have picked to do the sustaining, he's picked a woman which didn't have as great a standing in society at this particular time, and secondly, it's a widow woman. So it's even worse, somebody that's got virtually nothing to spare and very little going for her. And that's who the Lord picks. Not many mighty, not many noble. You know those scriptures, right? All of those things. The Lord does things so differently to what we might do. So he arose and went to Zarephath, and when he came to the gate of the city, behold, the widow woman was there, gathering sticks. And he called to her and said, Fetch me, I pray thee, a little water in a vessel, that I may drink. And as she was going to fetch it, he called to her and said, Bring me, I pray thee, a morsel of bread in thy hand. And she said, As the Lord thy God liveth, I have not a cake, but a handful of meal in a barrel, and a little oil in a cruse. And behold, I am gathering 2 sticks, that I may go in and dress it for me and my son, that we may eat it and die. It's a very happy little story up to this point, isn't it? He's picked this widow woman. Go and get me some water. Okay, I'll go and get you some water. I am busy, but I'll get it anyway. And she goes, while you're there, I want you to make me something to eat. And she's got nothing. Look, I'm off to get these couple of sticks and a little bit of flour and a little bit of oil, and we're going to eat it and die. Want to join me? Kind of thing. And Elijah said to her, Fear not, go and do as you have said, but make me thereof a little cake first. Put the Lord first. Always put the Lord first. There's lots of lessons in this story, but there's one. Make me a little cake first and bring it to me, and after that, make for thee and for thy son. Do the things of God first. If there's any time left over, then if there's a couple of things you need to do, then maybe you can get them. For thus says the Lord God of Israel, the barrel of meal shall not waste, neither shall the cruse of oil fail, until the day that the Lord sends rain upon the earth. And she went and did according to the saying of Elijah, and she and he and her house did eat many days. And the barrel of meal wasted not, neither did the cruse of oil fail, according to the word of the Lord, which he spoke by Elijah. Now, this time, of course, there'd been famine in the land at that point. Elijah had many of those same issues that the people did. You might know the story where the Lord sent ravens to bring some food to him. Maybe even Elijah thought, well, now this is going to work. He's sending me to a widow woman. Couldn't you have sent me to, like, you know, the leader of the town or something, or the richest guy there or something like that? No, he didn't do that. Probably not how Elijah thought he would get provided for. It's interesting that even though she says, look, I'm going to go and do this, 2 sticks, and we're going to go make it and die, when he says, you know, fear not and go and make it first, she doesn't seem to hesitate. Seems to just go out and do it. She just did it by faith, we might say. She just did it by faith. And we've got to recognize that the thing about our God is that he's got an endless supply. He's not restricted by finite resources. I can remember when I was younger, in the sort of the mid-70s there, we were imminently about to run out of oil. Imminently about to run out of oil. Any day now, we've probably got just a few years left and all the oil will be gone. Well, that's nearly 50 years ago now, and I think we've got more oil in the ground now than we had than we had then. And so, you know, it is a finite resource. Even then, God is not. There's nothing finite about the Lord. But how did this work? What do you mean? I've got a little bit in something and I go to it and I take some out. Now I've got less than I had before. But it doesn't work that way when there's faith involved. It doesn't work that way when the Lord has proclaimed something to be. If we follow that, if we're obedient to that, if we just go and do it as she did, then it's like every day I go back. Gosh, there's still some in the bottom there. You can just imagine these. I wonder how many days it took when she started thinking, I don't think it's going to run out, you know. I wonder if she ever thought that. I'm sure we wouldn't have organised it this way. But if he had sent him to a rich person with a lot of food to spare, sort of thing, where would be the testimony in that? Where would be the miracle in that? What kind of a story would that have been? I sent him to the richest guy with a lot of food, and Elijah ate well. Yeah, but he didn't. He did this to teach us, to show us, to reveal something, not only about these people, but about the Lord, about ourselves, you know. Jesus knocked on your door one day and said, I want you to take me in and give me everything that you've got. And the vast majority of people don't want to do it. Lots of people buck at it. I was probably somebody who bucked at it, at least certainly initially. But one day, that point came when somebody told us about the things of the Lord, and Jesus was really saying, I want you to take me in and make a little cake for me first, sort of thing, you know. I want your thoughts, I want your dreams, I want your love for me. I want your problems too. I want you to give me them as well, and I will sustain you, as he sustained this particular lady here in this situation. He wants to sustain us. Maybe we didn't have much going for us like this woman had, virtually nothing going for her. But this is who he calls, as I said before. Not many rich, not many noble. You know, it's not the great people of the world. Of course, the Lord blesses us with oil as well, the oil of the Holy Spirit in our life. And just like this oil never fails, that oil, of course, will never fail either. The more she took out, there was always something there. And it's similar but even different in the Lord. The more we give out of the Spirit, the more we get back. It's not just the same. You seem to get more back, don't you? If you're doing the things of God, you'll find that oil will never decrease. Really what happens is it grows more and more. That's what happens. You'll never use it up. It's never gonna go away. It's not like you've got to ration it, anything like that. The more you give it to others, like ministering and all those sort of things, the more you use that Spirit to help others, the more it grows and increases in your own life. The more you use, the more you get, sort of thing. Certainly we'll never outgive God. We know that. The Spirit is a absolutely endless supply. So let's go to, I'm just going to check something to see if I'm going to use it or not. I might sort of skip that one. Let's go to Matthew 26. In verse 6. Matthew 26, verse 6 says, "Now when Jesus was in Bethany, in the house of Simon the leper, there came unto him a woman, having an alabaster box of very precious ointment, and poured it on his head as he sat at meat. But when his disciples saw it, they had indignation, saying, To what purpose is this waste? For this ointment might have been sold for much and given to the poor. And when Jesus understood it, he said to them, Why trouble ye the woman? For she has wrought a good work upon me. For you have the poor always with you, but me you have not always. For in that she has poured the ointment on my body, she did it for my burial. Truly I say to you, wheresoever this gospel shall be preached in the whole world, there shall also this, that this woman has done, be told for a memorial of her." Obviously, we know verse 13 is true because I'm talking about it right now. So this is not long at all before Jesus was crucified. It was sort of around just sort of before that. She gave to Jesus first. Sort of a similar thought there. She wanted to exalt him. She wanted to give something that, some people might have thought, oh, I don't think I can, I'm happy to give this, but I don't think I'm happy to give that, And of course, the Lord doesn't want that from us at all. He wants us to give everything and everything. If all you've got is 2 mites, chuck them in. See what the Lord will do for you. The disciples were sort of a bit worried about what this ointment could have done in the natural. I could have sold it and could have given a donation sort of thing, and could have given that money to the Salvation Army or something, or whatever they were thinking of, But she wanted to show something different. She wanted to show her dedication unto the Lord and unto his word, to put him first, to hold nothing back, all of those things. It's interesting that almost immediately after this, in fact, I think the next verse, the very next verse after this, Judas Iscariot goes over to the chief priests and for 30 pieces of silver makes his deal. I found that interesting that straight after this, out he goes and the process starts. So right beforehand, she's doing this thing. She's wrought a good work upon me. And we want to be part of those same works, don't we? Praise the Lord. Let's go to Proverbs 31. We're going to finish here. Proverbs 31, which is the last proverb. Verse 10, Proverbs 31 and verse 10 says, "Who can find a virtuous woman? For her price is far above rubies. The heart of her husband does safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil. She will do him good and not evil all the days of her life. She seeks wool and flax and works willingly with her hands. She is like the merchant ships. She brings her food from afar. She rises also while it is yet night and gives meat to her household and a portion to her maidens. She considers a field and buys it, and with the fruit of her hands she planted a vineyard. She girds her loins with strength and strengthens her arms. She perceives that her merchandise is good. Her candle goes not out by night. She lays her hands to the spindle, and her hands hold the distaff. She stretches out her hand to the poor. Yea, she reaches forth her hand to the needy. She is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet. She makes herself coverings of tapestry. Her clothing is silk and purple. Her husband is known in the gates. when he sits among the elders of the land. She makes fine linen and sells it, and delivers girdles unto the merchant. Strength and honour are her clothing. She shall rejoice in time to come. She opens her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness. She looks well to the ways of her household, and eateth not the bread of idleness. Her children arise up and call her blessed, her husband also, and he praises her. Many daughters have done virtuously, but you excel them all. Favour is deceitful, and beauty is vain, but a woman that fears the Lord, she shall be praised. Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in her gates. So it is talking about I guess qualities that everybody would want to have, that ladies would want to have, and all of us who are married, of course, know exactly what this is about, because these are the people that we've married, what we read here. But it's really talking about the church. It's talking about the relationship of the bride with the bridegroom, with Jesus Christ. And as you read about all of those attributes, they're attributes that the Lord would want us to have in our relationship with him, to be busy about his business, to be concerned about others, to be trustworthy, to make sure our light's not going out, to be loyal, to be faithful. It says their tongue was the law of kindness. The interesting thing about when you read, what have we got there? 22 verses, whatever it is. It's all about the inner person. None of those things really are about, this is what I want for me. They're all about things that we can do for the Lord, and things that we can do for our brothers and sisters in service to them, new people too, perhaps. It's all about looking after others, helping others, bringing in food for others, ministering the word of God, really is sort of what it's talking about here too, the very last sentence there, and let her own works praise her in her gates there. Our works are there to be seen of people, not that we would be praised, but that the Lord would be glorified. Not to praise us, but to praise the one who wrought the works in the first place. And it's such a difference between how we should be and how the world is, that out there it's all dog eat dog, me. What's the best thing for me? That's where we start. What's the very best thing for me? And if we start there as spirit-filled people, then we're starting in the wrong place. Should never start with what's the very best thing for me, because we'll fall in a hole and we'll do things that we wish that we wish we didn't do when we end up doing them, perhaps. We've got this testimony. Here's a person here with a testimony, a church with a testimony that's shining forth there, and we want it to shine. The Queen of Sheba, she saw it in Solomon and in Israel in general, in the court there. She saw it. We've got to make sure that we're shining like that people recognize what the Lord is doing for us. What did Philip say? Come and see. And that's what we would say. Come and see. Taste and see. Put it to the test. Check it out. We know we've got nothing to lose. Of course, we've got nothing to lose. Anything that we're doing as far as the Lord is concerned is always going to be with an eye to the future. The Lord is coming back. The world is so much worse than any of us can ever remember. We see the signs of the times. We shouldn't be scared of them, we should be embracing them. They should make us want to be more ready than we've ever been ready before, because we see the signs of those times. And so let's be that. Let's be that testimony. Be like this, virtuous woman. Her price is far above rubies. The Lord delights when we do things for him. He delights in those things, individually and collectively as well. Anyway, we'll leave it there. All the people said.